from the Willie Nelson and Friends Museum Showcase in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Music is Funny. Musicians talking to comedians about music and comedy. With your hosts, Raelyn Nelson and Jonathan Bright.
Smoking, I'm so high, I keep toking, I'm drunk, but I'm still drinking too.
Welcome back to Music is Funny. I'm Raelyn Nelson.
And I'm Jonathan Bright from the Raelyn Nelson Band, back with another ridiculous and unnecessary intro.
Emily Noonan. Yeah. Okay. So we start every podcast off by asking you, what's the first music you remember loving as a kid?
It was Madonna's Immaculate Collection. I remember the tape, like I had the tape and it was like a Tiffany blue cover, I feel like it was like a cassette tape. And I just loved that song. Like I loved that whole, and I had no idea what any of them meant. Like I was 5. But that was like my all-time, I would sing like a virgin into a fake karaoke mic. And I was like, what's a virgin? And my parents were like, don't worry about it. It's a drink you can have. And I was like, okay. So that was that's like my earliest memory of music.
Yeah, I was just about to ask what your parents thought about that, knowing the lyrical content and stuff.
Yeah, I also used to love this song called Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover.
I remember that.
I used to like belt it down in the car and my parents were like, we give up. Like it could be worse, I guess.
Sounds like you had some pretty cool parents though.
Yeah.
What were they listening to?
My mom loves James Taylor. Do you know Mary Chapin Carpenter?
Yeah.
They love Mary Chapin Carpenter. My uncle was in the Starland vocal band.
Wow.
Afternoon Delight, and he co-wrote Country Roads. But his guitar keyboard player, John Carroll, also was in Mary Chapin Carpenter's band. So we were a big Mary Chapin house. So I still love her.
You kind of grew up around music and musicians then.
Not as cool as it sounds, very peripherally, but I did know that my Uncle Bill had been in a band that was very popular and he had a Grammy and we were allowed to hold it. And we'd always ask our parents, like the song Afternoon Delight, we were like, what is that about? And they're like, oh, there's this restaurant in DC called Clyde's. It's a restaurant chain and they have a menu called Afternoon Delight, which is like their specials in the afternoon. And that's what they base the song off of. So they'd be like, oh, it's that menu at Clyde's with like the chicken tenders and the nachos. And we were like, that's a great thing to write a song about.
It's still one of the funniest scenes. I don't know if you watched Arrested Development, but there's outro of one of the episodes where Michael and maybe are singing that karaoke together and they didn't really know what the verses held.
Yeah.
And halfway through, all of a sudden Michael's like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah. Their whole relationship was so, I love that show.
George Michael.
It's got to be one of the greatest sitcoms. It's my favorite sitcom of all time.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yes. Those sitcoms like that make me want to just quit comedy because you're just like, I can't do it. It's not didn't come from my brain. I wasn't a part of it. I can't do this.
I really didn't think it, like I watched it from the first season. I'm like, oh, this is way too smart and way too fast. It canceled. I was shocked it went on as long as it did.
I know. Same. That's what I thought about 30 Rock too. I can't believe Rock went as long as it did for as it's just the humor was so smart and great. Like I just didn't think it was going to last as long as it did.
Yeah.
I remember watching Arrested Development with the kids, and my kids now are older. They're like teenagers, but at the time they were kind of like 9 or 10. And we got to the part where, remember, Shirley's Theron was in there and she was retarded, but she was
canceled.
But she was British.
Yes.
And so she didn't sound retarded. She just sounded really smart. And my kids were asking me about it and I couldn't explain it to them, I was like, I think it's time for us to not watch this anymore and let's just wait till you're older.
Wait till you can get it. Yeah.
So funny. How old are your kids now?
My boys are 15. They'll be 16 in a couple months, and they're twins.
Gosh.
And then my daughter's 13.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. That's so fun.
Yeah, they're cool.
So did you ever think about being in a band or writing any songs when you were a kid since you had an uncle that did that?
That's a good question.
I wrote a song about I wrote lyrics to a song in a Lisa Frank journal in like second grade about like a cheating husband.
Shout
and
out Lisa
my
Frank. That shit was cool.
Yeah. And it was like, I remember the lyrics because I remember reading as a kid and being like, these are good. Like, this is like for like a 7-year-old. And my parents read it and were like, what the fuck? Like, what are you watching too many soap operas with your babysitter? But I'm not musically inclined. I mean, I cannot sing for shit. My parents would like ask me to stop singing because they were just like, it sounds like dying cats. And I was like, well, they're so supportive of everything else. If they're really not into this, then it must be awful. I tried out for like district chorus in elementary school, and the teachers were like, you're the only person we're going to tell in the room no, you know? And then I played the clarinet, and that was for like 2 years. And that was the extent of my music. But if I always say, like, if I had a dream, it would be to be like a country music singer. That is like my number one, like, pipe dream.
Well, to be fair, you were a lyricist in the second grade or whatever you said. Maybe you were just like Bob Dylan and your voice didn't resonate commercially, and you could have been one of those underground legends.
That's just something I'll bring up in therapy and complain to my parents about. I have a lot of constructive criticism for them about how that I was raised. So I'll bring that up next time.
Did you say you still remember the lyrics from the first song?
Yeah, it was like it was something like, all I remember is the like last line before the chorus was kiss the kids and tell them hello, because he didn't come home because he was with his girlfriend. And like my handwriting, I mean, it was just, I wish I still had it because it was so wild. But I just remember being like, man, you are a genius. Like, you are a 7-year-old.
I wish you still had it. We could cover it.
Oh my God. And I could like still remember the tune because I couldn't write music. I didn't, you know what I mean? But it was just like, that's one of my earliest memories. And I can still like picture the journal perfectly. It was like a flying dolphin, you know, and then you opened it and you were like, this is dark.
That is wild. Maybe you should, if you remember the lyrics, send them to us and we'll cover it. Okay, perfect. All right, great. I just realized I'm drinking out of a mug by accident that says braless and flawless, of which I am neither. And I can't believe I grabbed this. And I'm just going to keep grabbing it like this whenever I put it in my mouth. Which is hilarious because I didn't notice that, nor would have anybody else. But we appreciate your honesty. That's the story of my life, self-sabotage.
Okay, so high school, you said that you did the clarinet. Was that high school times or was that middle school?
That was middle school. I wanted to do the flute. I thought that was so like dainty and cool, but I couldn't get the noise to come out of it. Like I was just like, so I got a reed instrument.
I had a similar story when I tried out for band in middle school. They told me that my mouth wouldn't work for wind instruments. And so I went to chorus and sang, but they put us in a box. We could have been famous flautists. Maybe your band director was hitting on you. Oh, party mouth.
Yeah, it's too party for wind instruments.
He's like, there's something else that mouth could do. It's not this.
Resembles a flautist. So you get to high school, teen angst years. What kind of music were you listening to then?
Oh my gosh. I was the most angsty teen, like for no reason. What did I love I loved the Goo Goo Dolls. I loved, and I still do. My music taste is, I don't share it widely because it's like, people are like, what? But like the Counting Crows, I would die for them. Like, I just love the Counting Crows. I was like August and everything after a Sarah McLachlan. I would like cry listening to her. I loved the Chicks so much in high school. I saw them like 4 times. And then I started getting into country, like Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, like sort of like pop country. And I would just Matchbox 20 I loved, like just the best like teenage girl typical soundtrack. Yeah, you covered most of them right there.
That's right around my era too. We actually got to open for Tim McGraw in Atlanta a few years ago, and His teeth are so perfect. I actually walked down with a friend of mine. We walked out to the front to watch him close up, and his teeth were so white and shiny and perfect. We now call him Teefs McGraw.
Wow. That is so funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but he was really good.
Shout out to his shout out to his dentist. That's impressive.
Yeah. Did you watch 1883? Did you see 1883?
I have not watched it yet. That's a Yellowstone spinoff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still catching up on Yellowstone, and I don't want to watch them at the same time because I know I'm going to be so sad when Yellowstone's over that I want to have like a whole new thing to watch afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I was super impressed
I'm very excited for it. Is it good?
Yeah, with Tim McGraw and Faith Hill there and the whole thing. And I was impressed with them. I watched it because I had to see them act and do this, but I thought it was really good.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I get so mad when like actors are really good singers or vice versa, because you're just like, can you just let someone else do it? Like you already have your thing. Like, come on, don't be perfect with everything.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So what's the first comic you remember loving?
God, the first comedian I remember loving. Yeah, it's kind of crazy for like as entrenched and into stand-up as I am now. Like growing up, I didn't really like pay attention to it. It wasn't like, I feel like lately it's just been such a huge, in the zeitgeist kind of thing. But I mean, my dad loved Seinfeld. My dad loved Chris Rock. I remember, loving them. I remember Chris Rock, like the joke about like to stop shootings to make bullets more expensive. And he was like, he did this whole bit that was like, I'm going to save up some money. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to shoot you. And it was just like such a funny, the way he performed it was just so good.
I totally remember that bit. And most people, or a lot of people we talk to, their first like comedic memories are just stand-ups and sitcoms that they didn't realize were stand-ups, because you don't really, as a kid, you don't really know about stand-up.
Totally. And that's what, now that reminds me, Roseanne. I loved Roseanne. I watched so much Roseanne growing up, and I didn't realize she was a comic and that was based on her life, but yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah. Like Bob Saget and Joe, from Full House, and like Joey Gladstone on there.
Yeah.
Coulier, I loved them, but I didn't know that they were stand-ups.
Exactly. And I loved learning that Danny Tanner had like a really dirty mouth, like, because that's like, Bob Saget's humor was so, and just hearing that Danny, who liked cleaned his cleaning products, made like dirty jokes. I was like, he's an amazing actor too.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. There would be no way he could get that role if they were coming out with it today, because people would know about a stand-up and there would be no chance that he would get to play that role.
Totally. It's so crazy too, just thinking about the range of things. I think about that with Bryan Cranston. Like he was Malcolm in the Middle dad, like a joke, like, and then to see him turn into Walter White, you're just like, the range of people that we don't even know is wild. Like the untapped talent that they have just because we put them in like a certain box. But I guess that goes against my theory of you don't get to sing and act and be funny. You have to pick one.
Man, Cranston, even from the beginning of Breaking Bad to the end, just changed. There's character, completely different person from the beginning. Then he's great.
It's crazy. I didn't used to sound insane, but I didn't used to believe in acting. Like I was just like, oh, you're just acting like the same person. You know what I mean? Like Jennifer Aniston, I love her, but it's like, she's always Rachel. Like to me, that's, and when I saw Bryan Cranston, I was like, oh no, he's acting. Like this is crazy. Like the journey he takes us on.
For sure. So at what point in your life did you figure out that there was such a thing as stand-up and go, you know what, maybe I'll give that a shot? Was it early? Was it late?
It was super late. I think there's such a difference between not such a difference, but there is a difference between being, funny and entertaining and being a good joke writer. And I am not a great joke writer. I mean, that is a skill that I would love to have. But it's just not the way my mind works. I knew that it wasn't until the end of high school, I won, I don't think we're allowed to say this word anymore, but I won biggest spaz. That was my.
I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I was expecting something much worse.
I know, but you're not allowed to say it. So
didn't Lizzo get in trouble for saying
I think
it?
It's the S word now is what you're supposed to say.
But I don't even know what is it making? What is it insensitive to? I think
it was like people who, because it's spastic, because the people who have like the twitches,
really
so they're like,
and tried to just put more onto the word than just freaking out. That's what it just means to me, Right.
I didn't realize that I had those tendencies until my senior superlative was biggest spaz. And when I went up to accept it, I like tripped over a chair and fell down, and everyone was like, oh, and I was just like, oh, I didn't know that was like my vibe, and so I kind of just leaned into that, and I sort of got into comedy like through the back door. I didn't really ever think I had the chops to like totally go for it. And that's just something I regret because I was scared. But I started as a page at David Letterman and was just around the late night show. A page is basically like a glorified usher. And I just like, my goal from that point was like, I just want to work at SNL in any capacity. Like now that I've done Letterman and seen this world. And I ended up working there as an assistant, and then it just sort of snowballed from there.
So if you were a page, how real and resonant was 30 Rock watching that? I can see why you like the TV show, but.
So what's funny is that, the NBC page program is a like very prestigious, it's rounds and rounds of interviews. You get recruited for it. You go to 30 Rock, you do like a huge presentation. Their pages end up being like president of the company. The page program I did was for CBS, which was not at all similar. It was basically just like you clapped and you sat people in their seats, and like you put the prettiest people in the front because that's what the TV people wanted. And so I didn't have the same experience, but it was sort of like the shittier sibling of the NBC page program.
So did you ever want to act? Like do comedy acting?
Yeah, for sure. That would have been, yeah. I forced my parents in 8th grade to take me to an open call for an audition I grew up in DC, at the Kennedy Center, for the Magic Flute. And I like waited in line for hours, and my parents were just like, this is so ridiculous. Like, we don't want to be here. And I ended up getting cast as the monkey, and I wore like a full monkey suit, and I was like, I've got the bug. Like, this is all like, and then I was at a food festival in DC, and someone approached me and was like, I was a teenager, and they were like, you have this look that we're looking for to be in this to be an actor to work for our agency. And I was like, oh my God, like this is what happened to Kate Moss. Like, I'm the shit. And then we went, and they were like, if you pay us $1,000, and my mom was like, we're leaving. And then I was like, it just seemed so untenable and so ridiculous that I never gave it a solid try, which is not a good lesson for people. But yeah, I was very much like, I need to have a job. I need to have benefits. I need to have a 401k. I can't abandon. I didn't have the balls for it, essentially.
So you're working as a page, like at that, were you watching comics come in and go, that's something I could do. So that's something I could get into, or like, what was the next step after the page, and how long did you work there? Maybe you already said that.
So I was there for a year. They only let you stay a year, or else they have to start like treating you like a full-time employee. So they sort of like kick you out after a year. But I was there during the writer's strike in 2007. And so my time got extended a little bit. And while I was there, I was just working with a bunch of other people. They were from like NYU and Fordham, and they had all known they wanted to be in comedy their whole lives. So they were writing and submitting jokes for the monologue and getting paid like $50 a joke. And, their end goal was like SNL. That's like all they wanted to do was get to SNL. So I was like, hey, I love this. I love these people. I love this, everything about this. Now I just want to get to SNL. And that was like my goal. And then I did it, not as a, like I was Lorne Michaels' assistant for about 3 years. But yeah, it was just sort of like, I liked the excitement. I loved late night. Like I loved the tapings. Like it was just sort of an adrenaline rush, and it's where I knew I wanted to be.
I bet working at SNL is wild, especially being Lorne's assistant. Is he as funny as people say he is?
Yeah, I mean, he's a genius. It was crazy. I count myself very lucky to be someone that worked there. It was pretty awesome. And it was some of the things were just like surreal. But it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's wild.
What do you listen to? Do you listen to a lot of comedy podcasts now, or do you listen just to music when you get in the car or get in the shower?
I'm mostly just music. I should listen to more comedy podcasts, especially since I'm working on one now. But I'm mostly just music. I love sketch. I mean, I watch a lot of comedy. Like I'll watch a lot of stand up. Have you guys watched I Think You Should Leave, Tim Robinson's show on Netflix?
Mm-mm.
It's the funniest. Tim Robinson was an SNL. He was at SNL when I was there. And we got to watch auditions when people would come in, and he had the funniest audition I've ever seen in my life. And he did I don't know I think I can tell the story. I don't know, but he said he was doing an impression. He was like, I'm the world's greatest actor, but the one problem is I can't pretend to sleep. So he did this like incredible monologue that was like actually moving, like on the stage during the audition. He did this like incredible deep monologue. And then he was like, and now I must rest. And he closed his eyes and he started going, and it was the funniest thing. Like, I mean, we saw like so many people audition, and I was just like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. So he has a show on Netflix. I think it's coming back called I Think You Should Leave, and it's sketch. And I watched that like over and over and over.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
Check that out because I was huge. I like the sketch, the Kids in the Hall back in the day. I know they got new stuff out I haven't seen, but back when that first came out, it was mind blowing. So insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you into improv? You like improv?
Yeah, I love improv. I did UCB, British Citizens Brigade, and I did Groundlings when I moved out here. Yeah. My boyfriend is actually a big sketch comic. He did like all of Groundlings. He's super into it. I love it. It's like watching magic. I mean, like when you get to see good improvising, it's like you can't imagine how their brains work. It's just fascinating to me. So yes, I love improv.
Are there any real stoners in improv?
I mean, other than my boyfriend.
You don't have to name them. I'm just curious because you have to be so quick.
So quick. You know what? That's a really good question. I don't know. I think they'd all be on uppers, but I don't think so. That's a really good point because you have to have those brain synapses firing fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're bouncing Adderall off the windows in the back to get going.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and Adderall. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But a lot of I was just thinking of all the improv comedy people that I know, and they all smoke weed.
But I mean, do they get high when they're improv?
Probably not. But I'm just thinking they're all more, and like they're sober from alcohol.
If you have that ability to improv and you just happen to be a stoner, you could probably work your way through.
Yeah, just work the muscle, right?
Yeah. I work my way through a lot of things.
It probably also is like, to have an improv brain, I think you have to be going a million miles an hour all the time. So I think on your off days, you would want to sort of be stoned just to like give your brain a break. That would make sense to me.
Yeah. Plus your roommates are probably like, please smoke some pot and shut the fuck up. We're not doing this here. We're trying to watch the football game.
Yeah, exactly. Like please stop bringing your improv troupe over on Saturday mornings.
So how'd you move, when and how, and why did you move to California?
So I was at SNL for 3 years and I loved it, but it's also like a super intense, crazy place to work. And I was sort of just getting burned out. I lived in New York for 7 years. And it was just kind of kicking my ass. Like everything, I don't know if you guys have lived in New York, like everything's difficult. Like if you're not rich, New York is just a really hard place to live. Like everything is 10 times harder than it needs to be, like getting a prescription, getting like anything. And so we would, when I worked at SNL, we would come out to LA a lot, like on the hiatuses and in the summer. And I just loved it. And granted, we would stay at like the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I'd be on Lorne's dime and like be driving a Mercedes rental and like had petty cash for days. And I was like, LA is great. And my mom was like, that's not going to be your LA experience. Like, you're not going to live at the Beverly Hills Hotel. But I just quit and picked up and moved. And we had like a huge group of like expat SNL people out here, and they were like, it's going to take a while to like it. It's an adjustment. Like, it's going to take you 2 years and then you're going to love it. But like, I got off the plane and I was like, I love it. Like, this is my home, which I don't know what that says about me as a person, but mostly it was like the weather, and I couldn't get over how sunny, and like, I'm very affected by weather, as crazy as that sounds. And just like not having any more gray days. I've been here for 8 years now, and I don't think I'll go back.
That's not crazy. That's normal. And also, DC is gray. Every time I've been to DC, it's gray.
It's gray. It's a swamp. I mean, it's literally a swamp. It's built on a swamp. There are like 3 really nice days a year there. But if it's not gray and it doesn't snow there, it does this thing called like wintry mix, which is the worst possible combination. And then it's so humid you can like swim through the air. So I go back only in like October and May.
The coolest part about DC is the mansion on O Street. Have you ever heard of that hotel? The mansion on O Street?
No, what is that?
It's like 4 townhouses that they've turned into this hotel, but literally, I'm not exaggerating, every little spot of the hotel is filled up with something, like a
wild
cabinet or a painting, an ashtray. Like, so like a hoarder came in and put stuff all around every little bit of it, and you can stay there. Like, it's a hotel.
So crazy. I'm so surprised I haven't heard of that. I have to check that out.
Yeah, before the pandemic, I stayed there a couple of different times, and before the pandemic, I reached back out to try to stay again, and it was like a 3-year waiting list. Like, the word had gotten out. And,
oh my God!
It's just this family who owns it who just love to collect shit, and yeah, but it's neat to check out there. That's the coolest part about DC that I've ever been, and I've been to like the White House and stuff.
So cool! I have to check that out. That's so awesome. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
So, did you have a gig when you moved to LA?
I did not. I moved out here and basically just asked everyone I'd ever met through SNL, like for an informational. That's like what they do out here. You go and talk to them and then nothing happens. But Jimmy Miller, who runs a management company out here, was friends with Lorne. So when I moved out here, I reached out to him, and he repped at the time Whitney Cummings, who was looking for an assistant stand-up comedian. And I started a job as her assistant, and I did that for 3 years. And that was sort of my first job here.
Yeah, that's where I saw you, is on her.
Yeah. And then I was with her for 3 years, and then we went our separate ways. And then I came back to help her produce her Netflix special in like 2019, I think. And then she started her podcast. And then I came back to help with the podcast like 2021.
It seemed like you were like running the show at the podcast. Is that?
Yeah. It was it's such a brave new world, as you know, podcasting. Like, I was called the showrunner, which is, I don't know if that exists for podcasting, but that's what we just called me.
That's what you do.
Yeah. And, but we sort of just made it up as we went along. And depending on the job I'm going out for, I say I'm like the executive producer, the showrunner, so it's sort of like whatever I wanted it to be. But yeah, it was just like booking guests, thinking of segments, just sort of all the ins and outs of it. It was really awesome.
Y'all made the ads really fun. I didn't want to skip the ads because you guys, I thought you and Benton were a huge part of it, like a huge part. Honestly, I don't even watch it anymore. I'll just listen but I watched it when you guys were on, and you would do these silly little skits for the ads, and you guys would just start cracking up. It was so good to watch. I loved it.
That's so
cool. And you guys are doing a podcast with him, right?
Yep, it's called Nice to Be Nice, because I used to come into work every day, and if I was ever in a bad mood, Benton would say, "It's nice to be nice to Benton." Like Benton would just say that to drive me nuts. So yeah, we started it. I think we have 5 episodes, so it's very new. But yeah, it's really fun. Benton is just like a gift from God. Benton is the funniest, most entertaining, like sparkly, dazzly, fabulous person in my life. He's just the funniest.
Yeah, his perspective and the way he says things is just so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
I'm just like, what is it like in your brain? I can't imagine, because it's nonstop. He's just like a machine gun. And you're just like, where is this coming from? You know, Benton is never not funny. Yeah, pretty wild.
He actually is from Dixon, Tennessee, I think, which is close to us. It's like on the sticks. Yeah, it's closer to you than me. But yeah, so I can kind of relate to his perspective when he talks about growing up in the South, and he talks about going into Green Hills and stuff. And
I know where Green Hills is.
Because he comes in and like in a fur and like beautiful nails, and like it's like, this one time I skinned a deer, and you're like, what? Like, you know? And he's like, one time I was riding on a 4-wheeler and a groundhog hit me in the face, and you're just like, I would love to watch your whole life from start to now. You know?
I know, yes. And he tells a story about how when Britney Spears put out this CD, him and his friends got in the car and it was snowstorming and ice, and he went into town to go buy the CD. Like it was the last thing he could do on the earth.
He did like a senior project on Paris Hilton. And I mean, just like that was like the culmination of his high school education and she was actually on the podcast when we were on Whitney's podcast. And we tried to get his mom to send it to us. She couldn't find it, but we were just like, and now Paris like follows him on Instagram and like loves him. And you're just like, oh, this is so cool, you know?
That's great.
And
we met somebody close to Paris Hilton.
Oh my God. Okay. So we were playing this. It
was in
Mulberry
Arkansas,
Mountain or something. Is that what it's called? Music on the Mountain. What's Mulberry? I don't know, but it was like out in Arkansas in the sticks. And we're playing the show and we didn't have any weed because they told us that there was going to be like security there. And we didn't bring any weed because we did get pulled over on the way back. That's another story. But we were back there and this guy comes walking up and said, "Hey, we heard you needed some smoke." You know, we're like, yes. We start smoking with him. And he said that his claim to fame was being on The Simple Life with Paris and Nicole. They had came to their house and he was the guy who said,
"Oh, good Lord.
Do you remember that guy?
Lord. We met the good Lord guy." Yes.
I hope he's doing well.
And I looked at him. We were like, "Oh my gosh, it is him. It is him."
But we went forward like Talk Soup, right?
I didn't even really watch the show, but he always made Talk Soup because the
Joel McHale show.
He said "good Lord," 15 times.
I'd be more excited to meet a celebrity like that than like Brad Pitt. Do you know what I mean? Like that would just tickle me. That's so incredible. I'm like, I hope they paid you. I hope you invested it. I hope you were killing it. I hope your 15 minutes have become 20 years.
Yes.
Well, it was still working for him because he introduced himself basically that way. Like, "Hey, you might recognize me from such things as The Simple Life."
Like, I didn't, but.
Yeah. And then when he said "good Lord," I was like, it's the guy. It's the guy.
Yeah. And then he charged you $10. He should just do that, you know.
We did make him do it a few times, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so when's the first time you remember hearing about my grandpa, Willie Nelson? Do you remember that?
Oh my God. I feel like some people in our world you're just born knowing about them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I've never not known about Willie Nelson, I think is like the craziest thing. And it's funny because I was in, I think, 8th grade, and your grandfather had just gotten the Kennedy Center Honors Award. And my best friend's little sister was having her bat mitzvah at the hotel where they were all staying. And your grandfather came out and said hello to us, and Shirley Temple was there and she said hello to us. And I remember meeting your grandfather and like being like, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. And it's the only time I think my parents have ever been jealous of me. Like I went home and I was like, guess who I met? And they were like, oh my God, like that's crazy. So yeah, that's my only Willie Nelson story, but I'll remember it forever. Like it was because he had the Kennedy Center award like on him, the rainbow, so yeah.
Okay. Tell me about Shirley Temple though, because that's really cool.
Was so tiny. Like she was just like this tiny little lady. And I honestly didn't I knew the drink, but I didn't know who Shirley Temple was.
Oh my God. You didn't watch it? When I was little, I watched all her movies. I don't know why my mom put that on for me and I loved it and just wanted to watch them all.
I knew I didn't have any really idea who she was. I kind of felt she looked like a golden girl. Like I was like, oh, one of the golden girls.
Well, she looked like a golden girl when she was 3 years old or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Those creepy, man. You listen to her talk and she's so grown up and it's like, I've watched them like, I can't watch it. It's something wrong with this.
We owe her an apology. Like that was, they put her in blackface.
And they would make her sit on ice when they weren't when the kids weren't obeying. They had this big ice cube because it was before air conditioning was everywhere, right? So they would make them sit on the big ice as a punishment.
And have you seen just when she's just, there's some videos where she's just with grown men just teasing and she's fine. And you're like, this is your mother. This is.
And when they pick her up, their hand is literally on her vagina, or at least on the thigh, inner thighs. Two men on inner thigh of this little girl, and she's just singing, smiling, and they're all looking up her dress. Yes,
it's wild.
And I love it.
Oh my God.
I want to be I'm this, I wanted to be the star of the show.
That's so funny. Yeah, I never watched Shirley Temple stuff, but Whitney, my old boss, is on a mission to avenge Shirley Temple.
I heard that rant. Yes.
And I'd never known about it, but I was like, oh my God.
I know. I got to say, I was like, she's right. She's right.
Yeah. So yeah, I met her, but I wish I had apologized for all she'd been through. She seemed great. So
yeah, but she was really, really old, I guess,
she's really old. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really cool.
She was a very grown up 5-year-old.
Yeah.
She's very mature for her age. Yeah.
An old soul, they say.
Are there any other cool celebrities that you've met like that?
Working at SNL, I met so many people. It was just wild. The people that you'd turn around and be like, oh, Mick Jagger is standing right here. You know what I mean? People that you just Paul McCartney, people that you just never could fathom. But it was always just God, I'm trying to think of my best celebrity interaction story. Cause I've always just been a hanger around her, an assistant or a, you know what I mean? But
so who are maybe the top 3 biggest asshole stars that we would know that you ran into that you can tell us?
You don't have to do that if you don't want to.
No, I'm trying to think. I mean, I didn't sign an NDA. I'm kind of God, who's Rachel Weisz was really rude to me.
Oh.
That I remember.
Okay.
But mostly, I mean, I think when you're at SNL, people are just on their best behavior because they're either guests or they're guests of guests, or they're also in awe of the whole amazing production that, and I think also being on Lorne's desk helped. I don't think people were very rude because they'd find out and then they'd be nice to you because they want tickets or so I haven't had too many bad interactions.
I didn't think about that because almost everybody that comes in there is they're not, this isn't their thing. They're coming into this and they know all the stories, they know how fast it works. They're probably petrified.
Yes.
So, they're probably trying to be nicest to as many people as they can so they can get help.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I remember Justin Timberlake would come on all the time while I was there, and he was intimidated by the process. And I was like, you're Justin Timberlake. What do you do? You know what I mean? And it was just so cool to watch, because that's just the legacy and the thing that it is,
Yeah. I remember, so when celebrities come on my grandpa's bus, they're always like that to my grandpa. And I think the same thing. I'm like, what are you doing? You're Mick Jagger. Why are you, kissing my grandpa's ass? But yeah.
No, I get that. I get why they would do that. But it's it's just interesting to watch because you're just like, oh, we're both intimidated right now. Like, I never thought I'd have anything in common with Justin Timberlake.
I remember seeing my grandpa on The View, and at the time I was really into The View, where I watched it every day.
Yeah.
And seeing them all be nervous that he was sitting there talking, I was like, he's so cute. Look at everybody so nervous there and to talk to him. And that there's just like certain things that happen where you're like, oh, my grandpa is a big deal or something, because these 4 women who can't shut the fuck up are literally speechless right now and can't even interview him,
That's so crazy. I can't decide if I think that'd be hard on your grandfather. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I don't think I'd want that. Oh, you do? Oh,
I do. I think
he does, because he could have quit a long time ago.
He likes being a man, he's the perfect one to have it because he's exactly like you want him to be. He's sweet and kind, and
he's a ham. He's like a classic old man ham.
Yeah,
I'm like that too. You get to a certain age and you're like,
yeah. I actually saw your grandfather at the Palomino Festival in LA I think it was in April.
Okay.
He did with Casey Musgraves, came out and did a song with her. And people were losing their minds. It was so cool.
Yeah, Casey's really cool. I met her here in Nashville when Papa Willie was at the Ryman. And I remember when I met her, she goes, "You have a band too, don't you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, Casey Musgraves knows that I have a band." That's cool.
So cool. That's so awesome.
She's really nice also. It's fun when you meet people and they are cool, because I've met ones that aren't, and it's super not fun.
They say never meet your heroes, which I think is kind of good advice. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, so we're going to pretend to get off and then maybe just keep you for like 5 minutes more to ask you some fun questions for our patrons.
Yeah, of course.
But before that, we have this idea for a 1-minute podcast.
Okay.
We're just switch over to silly mode now. What are your thoughts on a 1-minute podcast? Do you think that would go well?
Attention spans are getting so short.
Yeah,
short.
TikTok and everything.
The last podcast I worked on, we would have 5-hour episodes. So a 1-minute podcast would be my dream.
And then, like, how do you think we should do it if we were to do it? Would you should it be like one question you ask every single time? Is there what are your thoughts?
Man, I don't think it should be the same question every time, just because you don't want it to be like so predictable. But oh God, that's such a good idea. Because think of the people you could ask. Like, it's 1 minute of their time.
1 minute.
Give me 1 minute.
You could get Obama. You know what I mean? Like, I need a sound. Right. That's it. You know what I mean? God, I think that's such a good idea. And then you could just release multiple at a time, and then people could listen to 15 minutes of it driving to work.
You release 15 podcasts in a row.
Yeah.
But you have to sit through the intro music and all that every time. After
for
1
1
minute.
minute.
So the intro would probably last maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
That's perfect. You could do your ads, plug everything. And then that's great. If you guys need help on the production of that, you have my email, because I am looking for a job.
And do you think it should be called the 1 minute podcast, or do you think 60-second podcast is better?
I like the 1 minute podcast.
Okay.
It seems long. It seems longer. 60 seconds.
Minutes shorter. Longer than seconds. It's just,
I like it's more of an experience.
See, this is valuable production.
It is.
Experience.
Okay, here we go. So what's your favorite go-to snack? Are you a savory gal or a sweet gal?
Pretzels. I love pretzel rods.
Rods?
You're a big pretzel rod guy.
I have them right there. I could eat 1,000 of them. I eat them so much. My mom is like, "How are you alive? Like, your mouth should be dry. Like, you should be a piece of salt."
They're so good. What's your brand?
Snyder's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing better.
And I don't like any other variation of it. I don't like the twisty ones. I don't like the little rods, like just the big rod.
It's like a breadstick, basically.
Yeah.
A breadstick with salt.
It's like a seared breadstick.
I've decided they're healthy. So that's my...
I can't agree with that. They're, there's a lot of carbs in there, but they're fat-free pretty much.
I love salt too. So anything... I would just lick the salt off of it because I wouldn't want to eat I don't know. It's just a little too hard, the pretzel stick. But I'm not mad at y'all. I'm not mad at y'all. Have you ever been mistaken for somebody famous?
No.
No?
Oh, yes. Oh my God. Did you ever watch Love is Blind, the first season?
Just the first
It's a Netflix. So remember Jessica, the one who gave her dog wine out of her cup? Like, she was a nut. She was actually on Whitney's podcast. She was very nice, but someone thought I was her. And I was just like, how? But it was also because they were like, heard me talking. And I think I was crying about being old. And they were like, that is so her. And I was like, oh my God, I have to rebrand myself.
Oh, that's really funny. Okay. What skill do you have that most people don't know about? Like a secret skill or talent?
Oh man. I don't think any, because if I'm good at something, I tell everybody and I show them and I won't stop talking about it. So I don't keep anything that I might shine at to myself.
That is fair.
All right. I'm a big ranch girl and all the fandanas know this. So what is your favorite dressing for your salad?
Right. I eat no sauces. I eat no condiments.
Wow.
My boyfriend would drink ranch with a straw. I mean, like, and when he eats it, I have like I don't know if it's like a texture, like sensory thing, but I like sit in the corner and just like, I mean, when I like am rinsing it off a plate, if it splashes back at me, I have to like shower. It's wild.
That's like mayonnaise with me.
Oh, I don't eat any condiments. Like if I order, nope. No, if I order a cheeseburger, it's like cheese and bread and burger. Like that is it.
So is this something that's been lifelong or is this?
Oh, yeah, lifelong. I mean, like I don't even like it. My cousins make fun of me because when we were little, if we were at a dinner table and ketchup was near me, like they had to move it to the other side of the table. It's so, I should seek more help for it. I don't know, but like mustard, well, anything like that.
Sour cream?
Oh, no.
Nothing?
No, nothing.
Man.
I'll eat soy sauce, but that's like the only thing with the word sauce in it that I'll eat.
What about like salad? You don't do salad at all then?
No.
This is great. Between like the early,
my mind is blown.
Between the early marriage broken up song at 2 and Madonna at 5 and then no sauces, your parents must have gone, she is insane. What is her daughter is like, crazy.
She's not ours. When I found out about Thousand Island dressing, which is everything mixed together, I was like, I'm calling the police. Like I can't. Yeah,
I thought it was crazy. Tartar sauce and ketchup mixed together.
I don't know. It's nasty. It's got chunks in it. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Just thinking about it gives me like the willies.
Triggered by sauces.
Being related to your uncle.
Have you ever lived with another comedian?
My boyfriend is a comedian. So my boyfriend is he's my favorite comedian. I laugh constantly. I love it. He's a great joke writer. When I was working on Whitney's podcast and I needed help with jokes, he was just like, it was great. It was like, I'm going to use all of these. So I've only really enjoyed it. But this is the only other person in the comedy field that I've lived with.
Yeah.
All right. And this is the most intriguing question. How often do you wash your hair?
Okay. This is so funny you say this because my boyfriend is disgusted by how infrequently I wash my hair, but we're not supposed to wash it every day. Right? I don't know. That should be like, they should make that a public service announcement. I am trying to do twice a week, but I often do like 3 to 4. Like I'm trying to do it less.
Yeah.
Because I heard you're supposed to. And it's such a fucking production. Like I just, it takes, you know?
I'm once a week and sometimes it's like 10 days and I just let it
that's
rest.
What you're supposed to do. And your hair looks great. So it's working.
I washed it today, but
I washed it today too. I got the Dyson air dryer that
it's amazing, right? It's like 5 minutes it takes to dry.
I'll never get another blowout. That's like, I can do it at home now.
Yes.
I'm on day 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah. I'm
proud
into a good run. That's one of the things. There were 2 things I was ahead of the curve on. Not washing your hair a lot. Was doing that way before anybody else, just because I was lazy. And intermittent fasting. At one point, I just never ate breakfast
Adult
anymore.
anorexia.
Never did it, and then found out it was good for you.
Yeah. Well, tell me what else you're doing now, because you might be ahead of the curve on something else. So that's, I like to get on the ground floor.
Emily, you're awesome. Thank you for doing this with us.
Yeah, this was great.
So much. I had such a good time. And let me know when you guys are in LA.
Yeah, we'll do another one out in LA. Been talking about coming out there and doing some in person with you guys, and maybe at the Whiskey A Go Go, because we're friends with those guys. And also, I'll reach out when we're doing this and get links that you want in there. And I can't wait to listen to yours and Benton's podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, guys. It was so lovely to meet you. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you too.
And if you're ever in Nashville, holler.
Yeah, holler if you're here.
I love Nashville. Thank you. All
right.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, she was great.
I like her a lot. I've liked her ever since she was on Whitney. Yeah. So enjoy your groceries.
I know your mom's name.
Don't be an asshole. Did we cheers yet?
Enjoy your cigarette.